A tough end to a 3-game road swing for the Utah Hockey Club as they dropped 2 out of 3, but there were some good points in there. We're going to talk about that. Hey, we've got some good news around Barrett Hayton as well. Come on back and join us. The Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast starts right now.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into another edition of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm former NHL voice Tom Callahan, along with longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and we're going to talk about some Utah Hockey Club shenanigans over the weekend. They dropped 2 out of 3 on a road trip. We're going to get into that. There were some good things, though. We will talk about that as well. Plus, we have good news on Barrett Hayton. We're going to get to that a little bit later on in the show as well. But we thank you for making us your first listen every single day when it comes to the Utah Hockey Club. We appreciate you being here. And Robyn, I think when we look back at this road trip, and indeed perhaps at this season, at the end of it all, when we're doing our postmortem on all of this, I think one of the phrases that's really going to just resonate with me is missed opportunities.
Yeah, it's just so many missed opportunities. I think, that we all notice too every time. And I feel like, and I think this might have been a word that was used, that was tossed around, Tom, I think among the team and everything. I just feel like these missed opportunities have caused so much frustration among the team. And it's become noticeable, which does sound a little bit of a small alarm on my end, Tom. I'm like, can't let that get to you. You just gotta move on. Like, I get it. It is frustrating. I get it. But you do that, you're gonna go through these skids.
You are, and look, they beat Winnipeg at the beginning of the week at home, and the homestand. Great win. Then they go on the road to Minnesota, and they beat the Wild convincingly. Great win. But when you're doing a road trip, 3 games, 4 nights with travel, with international travel through 3 time zones, that can get a little difficult. So the Utah Hockey Club, and this is one of the things, Robyn, between Minnesota and Winnipeg, getting a split there, no matter which team you beat and which team you lose to, is respectable. Top 2 teams in the division. And I expected Winnipeg at home, especially after they felt, quote unquote, embarrassed, we're going to come back after Utah. And they did.
Yeah, they did.
So you get the split there, but now you go to Ottawa. And Ottawa's a team that you really need to beat, but you don't have a full tank of gas. And scoreless after 1, tied after 2, big opportunity to grab at least some points on the road, and they were unable to do it.
Yeah, to me, I think the thing is, Tom, and it goes back to what we kind of discussed previously, and it is that up and down that we've continued to talk about, the consistently inconsistent. Where this team will ride the next high with now and then the next low in this moment. Where we're talking about not being able to play a full 60-minute game. And that third period really showed that. It looks like they just found they kind of ran into a lot of miscues and just fell apart. I think that's just the best way to put it. What happened in that third period against Ottawa? They just fell apart. They could not put together really much of anything.
Yeah, that was a tough one. It really was. And Ottawa, credit. Ottawa just kept coming at him and finally was able to put a puck in the net, take the lead, and Utah didn't have an answer for him. So want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Robyn, looking at that third period, it's like I mentioned, it was tied at 1 after 2 periods of play. And already I'm a little disappointed because Utah gave up a shorthanded goal. That's how Ottawa got on the board. But they come back like a minute and a half later, score to even it up. Okay, good response. Clayton Keller, 18th goal of the year. By the way, he's on a pretty good streak right now. We can talk about that a little later in the show. But in the third, you give up 2 goals, 7:33 and 13:22. Even when you give up that third goal, there's still 6.5 minutes left in that game. And that's where I was really kind of looking for the big time push and the ability to put a puck in the net. And one of the things that I think Utah has struggled with is not so much scoring. And it's funny, we said this year coming in, we're like, well, this team will score goals. It's just, can they keep them out? I think they don't have timely scoring. I think they're lacking that this year. And I don't think it's something that they planned on lacking this year.
Yeah, it's really interesting is because we know this team can score. To me, it just feels like that the scoring department has that lack, that lack of sense of urgency to turn it on and put those pucks towards the net. Sometimes it just feels like it doesn't happen until it's way too late, or they won't. Just something. I don't know what it is, Tom.
Andre Tourney. Now, look, a lot of cookie cutter phrases come out of coaches' mouths, right? They'll say
like
things
media relations one-on-one style.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. and yeah, I mean, you hear the same things over and over. Like, you ask for keys to the game, you're getting like one of 5 or 6 different things. You ask in hindsight in a win what happened, you're going to get one of 5 or 6 different things. Same thing after a loss. But what keeps coming up is the word urgency. And look, it's the end of January now. How much more impetus do you need for urgency? As I take a look at the standings here, heading into this week's action for Utah, who are going to be off for, what is it, until, let me pull up my schedule real fast. Wednesday. I wanted to say Tuesday, but Wednesday.
Yeah, they got Wednesday.
So Wednesday, by the way, which Wednesday's a 7:30 game. And Friday's game against the Blue Jackets is 7:00. So make sure if you're heading to either one of those, you appreciate the time difference. So 7:30 on Wednesday, 7:00 on Friday, and then a Sunday matinee against the Blues. That is a 5:00 MST start. So just want to give everybody the heads up on those start times. But Robyn, as I'm looking at the standings, Utah Hockey Club is out of the wild card. They have 49 points.
Yep.
And we've talked about the missed opportunities in the homestand, where if they would have gone 5-2 instead of 3-4 in the homestand, they could have been in the wild card. Even now, though, so Calgary is in a spot right now where they are the final wild card. And again, I feel like the separation is happening now. The 8th spot is the only one that's going to exist because the Avalanche are pulling away. They're only 2 points now behind the Wild. The Stars have moved in front of the Wild to 63 points. The Jets are way up at 71. The 8th spot is the only one that's going to be there. And it's now a 6-point gap, which is not a lot. It's a 3-game win streak, but you have to leapfrog St. Louis, Vancouver, and Calgary to do it. So you're asking those teams in front of you to slow down while you catch them. That's what's starting to worry me a little bit here. Is Utah's not gaining the ground when they have a chance.
And especially with the trade deadline coming up, this is around a time when those teams that feel like they can make the push will make those tweaks, make the additions or subtractions or whatever they need to do to get into that spot and to, maybe make a run. And if you're kind of like in that trailing behind, and we kind of already have this preconceived notion that Utah might just be like around that like soft sell, maybe not even close to soft buy. So they're going to be around that floating. We don't even know. So we want to see that urgency. We want to see that urgency kind of pick up. We want to see that happen sooner rather than later, because once the trade deadline comes and goes, now we're in the final stretch. If they're not caught up by then, they're not in the playoffs.
And Robyn, here's the thing. It's already started. The trade on the 24th with Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall, Drury and Natchez all going around in a circle there. Colorado, Carolina, Chicago was involved in that deal. I think it's kind of weird that Chicago basically spent $5 million for a 3rd-round pick. But it's starting already.
Yep.
Whereas we used to say, I guess it's going to take a little while, but they'll get there eventually and, whatever. But the trade deadline this year, and I think I have this right, is March 7th.
Yes.
So that's a little over a month away. There's plenty of hockey to be played, but I'm going to actually count real quick because why not? I can, just to see how many games there are. We've got 13 and 14 games. 14 games before the NHL trade deadline, and 4 of those are on the road.
Yep.
So 10 of 14 at home. Robyn, I'm throwing the gauntlet down because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
This is when this team has to put it in gear. And by the time the deadline's here, if they are not within like a 2-point sniff of that wild card spot, I'm a little worried.
I would be too. And if that was the case, at that point, I think it's focus on a sell, get some assets back. Let's try again next year. Is it disappointing? Of course. Is it also somewhat expected? Yeah, I mean, it depends on which way you actually look at it. I feel like our expectations, Tom, kind of already, like you and I, like it floated between wild card team versus bubble team, like right around there, and it's floating depending on how we felt in a given moment. But it's looking like it's trending in the wrong direction as long as as we see this team doesn't add that urgency, add that level of, hey, we need to really kick this up. We really need to focus on getting these games that we should be winning. Focus on winning at home. Make the Delta Center a hard place to play, and just get back into the conversation. Stir up see how crazy the NHL goes. If you're right around there come the trade deadline, it could really change things up.
Well, when your GM throws the onus down, as he did a couple of weeks ago, and said, my players will decide whether or not we're buying or selling at the trade deadline. And of course, everybody ran with that. They're like, oh, Utah's going to buy. Utah's going to buy. No, that's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said, we're going to see. The players are going to decide. I'm not opposed to buying at the deadline if the conditions are right. And everybody ran with that and said, oh, Utah's a buyer. They've announced they're a buyer. No, they didn't.
Yeah,
they didn't. So let's slow the roll on that hype train.
Because it'd have to be smart. It's not like these players are going to be like the players themselves would be like, yeah, you know what? If we go ahead and just get this player, we're in the playoffs. It just doesn't work that way.
We could just pick up Wayne Gretzky, Kirill Kaprizov, Mario Lemieux.
Let's go ahead and trade for Sidney Crosby because the rumors came out about that. Why not? Let's do that.
I'm sure McDavid's available for the right price. Yeah, no, not at all. So, all right, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on with this Utah Hockey Club here, and we've got some good news on Barrett Hayton coming your way here in just a minute. And this week's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, 2 teams, not my Bills, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even the coin flip, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. We're not going to talk about anything that happened on Sunday, Robyn. That's not hockey related. So we're just going to keep on going.
Fair enough.
So when you were putting together the list for today's show, and you said addressing the breakdowns for Utah, I'm kind of curious to toss that one up to you here and listen to what you have to say. What areas are you focusing on right now for this hockey team?
To me, I think we kind of already discussed and how it goes, and just seeing this team effectively fall apart. We talked about the naps, right? I feel like I think we're now past that. It's not really naps. It's just I don't even know what to call it at this point in time. I don't know what to call it at this point because they will just disappear almost. The team I saw for example, against Minnesota and the team here, different team, did not appear the same to me.
And the impossible question to answer for Utah, how different are you with Dursey, with Sergachev? Because Sergachev to me is a double-edged sword, and he's always going to be. He can win you some games, but he can lose you some games.
Yeah.
But you also don't have Dursey. Now you finally have Marino. By the way, Ian Cole logged the most ice time in that game against Ottawa on Sunday, which I
both
thought,
of them, by the way, have been looked pretty decent. Ian Cole looked pretty good, and Marino's been fantastic.
Yeah, Marino, second most ice time among any defenseman there. It's taking a little bit of the weight off Ole Mata, which is great, but I still think that was a great acquisition.
Of course.
Again, Utah's going to be thick defensively once they're healthy, so I anticipate they will make moves at the deadline. At least to move some of those defensemen out for some assets and for some return, which is awesome. Good for them. I mean, I'm looking forward to that and seeing as teams begin to think, you know what I need? I need a Robert Bortuzzo. I need a Cole. I need a whoever, maybe even a DeSimone. And I'm not trying to hurry these guys out of town, but what I'm telling all the Utah fans listening to this podcast is that they have value. And I'm not saying they don't have value to Utah in a Utah uniform. They do, but they will also have value at the trade deadline for teams looking to get over the top and get to a cup. So, and that's something that is just the reality of the sport. And I think that Utah can benefit from it because they've played things very well from a management perspective. But then, I mean, you're looking ahead already. Here, let me really fast forward all this for you. If you're not making the playoffs, you decide to sell, you don't have a lot of decisions to make coming up. You do have Veggie's contract. Ingram's got one more year, but you know, I don't see a problem bringing Veggie back at this point. I think he's earned the right to come back. I think unless he wants to go somewhere else to try to be a starter, which is certainly his prerogative. Yeah. But right now, I feel like he is Utah's starter. So you're all right there. You're going to be thick on D. You're good at forward. So really, you need to go about improving. But here's the thing, Robyn. When I look at this team, we're talking about a lack of secondary scoring. We're talking about a lack of timely scoring. Something to me has to change, whether it's from the leadership group. And it doesn't have to be that you're wearing a patch on your sweater. Right. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a C or an A. But something has to change in that locker room. There's got to be more of what championship teams have, the ability to just pick themselves up off a mat, the ability to just scrap out a goal, the ability to just keep the wheels turning no matter how bad the situation is. And I don't think Utah's got that right now.
No, it didn't seem like it. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I am like really bagging on like, hey, you know, I want to see, you know, this player who's only been around for X amount of time to step up and be like, oh, this is my team, and absolutely like talk crap in the locker room or whatever it is, whatever it is we're thinking here. I think we just need someone. I would just see someone step up and actually say, hey, we need to score, even if, and again, it is outside your primary people because Clayton Keller has picked up and he's finally kind of getting into his rhythm again. Ever since that Blues game, it seems like he got his mojo back, so to speak, especially getting that score against Ottawa, albeit it was a little, I guess, fluky in some ways. It just took the right bounce off a defender. But hey, you know what? Not going to complain.
Nope. They don't ask you how, just how many.
But outside of that, you know, he's like, hey, who else is going to score? Who else is going to take these leads? Who else? Like, not even like to add that too. What about the blue line? I mean, it's getting better. I mean, again, as I meant, you already discussed, and having Marino back certainly is helpful. But who's going to control that? Who's going to control the blue line? Like, I'd like to see someone who's takes a leadership role. They don't necessarily have to wear a letter on their jersey on the blue line to kind of quarterback it. I feel like it needs a little bit, like, just these zones need a quarterback on each one, because they need to be able to take control.
And, it's funny. You were talking about who else is going to score. You've got Keller on a 7-game point streak right now, or 7-game point streak. He's got 13 points in that stretch. So he looks pretty good. We're going to talk about Barrett Hayton here in just a moment. But again, I looked at some of those other guys that I really hope to contribute a little bit more. And I keep looking at that third line and just wanting so much more out of that line. But I also, I want to see more out of some of the D. And I understand Durzi's out in Sergachev, and I know that's a lot of your offense from the defense that is not in the lineup.
Yeah.
But even when you don't have those players there, I want to see them trying to find ways. And that's kind of one of the things I just think is missing right now.
It definitely is. And I feel like, too, you kind of talked about the third line and other things like that. Like, to me, it's really interesting because someone brought it up back, I would say like a little over a month ago. And they asked me how I felt about Matthias Maccelli. And at the time, I didn't really answer him. But, and from what I've been noticed, it's very streaky. He's become very streaky.
Oh, yeah.
He'll have a really good start to the season and then disappears for like a month. And then he'll go through another week where he looks pretty good, get some assists in there, do whatever, and then he'll disappear again. And I'm like, which version of Matthias Maccelli am I going to get in any given night? Love the guy. I feel like I would love to see him be a huge part of this team moving forward, but I want to see more from him because I feel like he is one of the people that's going to make up the future of this franchise.
That's one of the things you pay your GM the big bucks for, is to make that determination, is whether or not there is still merit in waiting for future development, or if the player is just not going to reach the level you projected for them. So that's why you pay a general manager and maybe even a VP of hockey operations and a scouting staff to help you figure those things out. And if there's value in other ways, you have to figure that out too. So, all right, Robyn, I want to get to the good news about Barrett Hayton. So let's go ahead and do that. Back here, and if you're still with us, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed to the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast, how are you still here and not a subscriber? Thank you to all of those of you who are and who have been here a long time. I know Robyn knows there's a lot of OGs on this channel, and obviously you come for the hockey, you stay for the Robyn. But it's something we love doing. We love talking about the game. We love talking about the team. So thanks for being here. If you're on YouTube, hit the bell so you know when we drop a new episode and we go on with the show. We certainly appreciate everybody's support out there. But Robyn, how about Barrett Hayton this week was named the NHL's third star of the week for the week ending January 26th. So Hayton, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points, and 2 of those goals were game winners. So the 2 games that Utah won this past week, Barrett Hayton had the game-winning goal in those. So that's absolutely fantastic. The Winnipeg game and the Minnesota game. And 3 of his 4 goals came within the opening 2 minutes of a period, which I love. I love that stat. Yeah. Plus, here's another stat I love. 63.6% in the circle. Love it. Great week.
Nice job. That's just the Barrett Hayton I wanted to see. Right? It's funny because was it not just like a week or 2 ago when I was questioning where he was?
It was, and then it was like 2 weeks ago you were talking about that, and then last week I mentioned how, and again, he listens to the show, so he started to pick it up, and I noted that, and I said, I like what I'm seeing out of Barrett Hayton right now, and I think he's starting to grow. And then he comes out and he finishes this week off with, some pretty nice numbers in there. Unfortunately, they do lose the last 2 games of that road trip, but really on the week they're 2-2, and 3 of those games are against the top 2 teams in the division. So not the worst thing, but again, I just feel like they let one slip on Sunday against Ottawa. But Barrett Hayton is another guy. We talk about taking that step forward, and we look at a lot of these younger guys, the Doans, the Haytons. You mentioned Maccelli in the last segment. All of those young guys that we were high on and hoping would continue to grow at the beginning of the season. They're all going at a different rate, and that's the key Robyn, is are we going to have enough patience to see it through with these guys? Are they going to even develop? Or, well, you know, what decision do you make?
It really is interesting. And I think the thing is, like, sometimes it's just luck of the draw based on how your games go and how well your line is clicking. Like, for example, for Hayton in his third star of the week performance, a lot of it really had to do with, and I'll use this term again, Tom. I've seen a lot of those tic-tac-toe style goals where it's just finding the perfect opportunity right in the slot, tape to tape, getting right in, and just getting right in there. And it worked perfectly in this scenario. Obviously, that's not going to work all the time, but it's still going to work a lot of times. In last week, it happened more times than not.
And now I just want to spread that scoring out through the lineup. That's the most important thing for me, is to see it start to distribute up and down the lines.
Absolutely. And then, of course, to add things out, as you mentioned, that great face-off percentage performance. Like, you want to see more of that, because I think for a while we were really only giving all the face-off love to Kevin Stenlund, but now you add in, Barrett Hayton for having a good performance. You need more of that. Utah needs more of that, because, hey, face-offs really can win you a game.
You want to hear something fun? Here's what he did in the circle against Ottawa. 10 of 11. Amazing. 91% against Ottawa. 10 of 11. Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's one of the reasons why they got him in the first place.
Yeah. Hey, it's a proven fact. If you start with possession of the puck, you're probably going to have a better game than if you don't. And you're going to have more offensive chances. You're going to spend less time in your own defensive zone. Doesn't matter where the faceoff is. If you possess the puck off of that faceoff, you control the play. So yeah. I love seeing that. I'm a possession guy. I just think that puck possession is so important. And when Utah has it, they score. And when they don't, they don't. And they've struggled with puck possession lately in the games where they're not scoring. Watch that Jets game. Go back or at least watch the highlights of the road Jets game, but also watch the home Jets game. How do you score all those goals against Winnipeg? You have the puck. How do you give up those goals against Winnipeg? You don't have the puck, and Winnipeg has the weapons to make you look silly.
Now, here's my question to you, Tom. It's kind of something that I feel like is a good way to kind of maybe give it a little tiny little mini hockey one-on-one session to those that are newer to hockey, because I know we still have some newer hockey fans in this show. What is to you, because there's multiple different ways people metric this, if people measure this, I should say, people measure this, but what is your measurement for good possession in a hockey game?
I think for me, like, time of possession doesn't matter as much. Mm-hmm. I feel the same way in football. You can have, or soccer, or any sport, you can have possession of the puck or the ball 25% of the time, but if you score at a high rate on your possession and the other team has a 75% and all they do is pass it around and don't really do anything with it, it doesn't matter. So to me, puck possession, some of the most important numbers that can come out of that are the win-loss numbers on battles is important. The 50-50 pucks, how many of those did you win? The zone keeps, how many times did you keep the puck in the offensive zone when there was a threat of a clear? Those are all things that go towards your improved possession metrics. And then the generation of scoring chances. How many high danger scoring chances did you generate? How many chances off the cycle? How many were off the rush? Those all matter to me far more than just numbers on a clock.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will use, Tom, like, personally to me, I will use a little bit of clock, but I will mainly offensive zone time, as well as like zone starts, all stuff like that. I've mentioned this stat multiple different times, so I'll bring it up again. But Corsi to me is also huge, because that kind of measures all different kinds of shots on, which, again, I'll say it again. Corsi is all the different kinds of shots, shots on net, block shots, missed shots. It really shows, hey, how often is that stick on your the puck on your stick, and how often are you taking a shot?
And I think, Robyn, even if you're still getting shot chances, whether they miss the net, they're blocked, or they get through, that's important too, to have a good volume there, because shots are going to get blocked and shots are going to go wide. Now, I wish everybody would just hit the net. I'm sure if anybody ever sat with me at a hockey game, you will hear that phrase escape my lips 5 to 10 times a game. If a guy puts one into the glass, be like, hit the net. It's exasperating for me. It's 24 square feet of net. How can you miss? But they do. And so I think as long as you're getting the chances, though, it's if the chances aren't coming, that's what would worry me, But if your chances are still coming, you're probably on the right path.
You just reminded me of something, and I just want to bring in one of our patent side notes here. I think it's really funny. Anytime when I went to go, I was a full-time Tucson Roadrunners rider. When I was doing that, I would go down to ice level to go take some video footage of the warm-ups. You hear it a lot. Players hit the glass, right? It almost felt like they were going directly at me because as my camera out, because it literally just goes directly in my face. To anyone's face who was sitting there. That's what it felt like. And I've always thought to myself, Tom, is like, are they intentionally doing that, or are they just are they just getting whatever shots on it? Because it's hilarious.
Some of them are shooting at you. Yes, I can confirm that. Yes, they absolutely are shooting at you. So, but that's guys do that. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, what the hell?
Yeah, no, they were aiming. They were, well, I don't know. Some of them might say, "Oh, I just missed the net," but no, other players will just be, I was trying to shoot at you and try to either startle you or like put the puck like right where the camera is. It gives them something different to aim at.
It's funny because I would have I would put slow-mo on my camera for that reason. To kind of see as it would slowly come right to my camera lens. But also, two, I've gotten so pervious to it that I'm just sitting there with my camera and it's literally going in my face and I'm barely even flinching. And then I have these fans sitting right next to me and it goes it goes in their direction and they're just jumping every single time. And I'm like, this is your fifth game here. How are you not used to this at this point?
For me, it's almost like white noise. I could fall asleep to pucks hitting the glass. So,
as someone that now spends a lot of time on the ice, any kind of sound of that, as well as just the sound of the edges against the ice.
Yes,
to me, amazing.
Always good stuff. All right, Robyn, anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, all I'll say is let's just hope this team can put together some more consistency. In the right direction. Actually, not the consistently consistent, but consistently consistent. I want to see more of it. I want to see them put together some more wins because I want to see them trend towards a playoff spot. Even if they don't make it, I want to see them at least get close.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. From your lips to the hockey god's ears, may it fly. So, well, we'll see. But as I say, as we just figured out, the bulk of the games between now and the trade deadline are at home, 10 of the 14. They've got time. They certainly have home ice advantage here. Now they need to go on the run. So can they do it? Well, we're going to find out. And Robyn and I will come back at you every single day until they either make the playoffs or Robyn, you know what? We may have to put you on the roof of Delta Center. You're going to have to live on the roof until they make the playoffs, which could be years. I don't know.
Actually, on the roof, or am I going to be in the rafters?
Either one sounds appealing as far as a publicity stunt. I think we could make either one work.
I'll take the Raptors that way. The camera can pan up to me, and every time I'm just waving down and be like, "Someone save me!"
There you go. Yeah, we'll see if we can make that work. So, but all right. Well,
as long as I'm still getting paid.
Yeah, you can find Robyn up in the rafters at the Delta Center, but also on X at Robyn _ Leaño, on Blue Sky at Robyn Ice Time. I'm on Blue Sky at Tom Talks. You can still find me over there on Twitter at Callahan on Air. And Robyn, where can they find the show?
They can find us on everywhere on social media, on X, on Instagram, Threads at @LO_NHL Utah. We're also on Blue Sky and on TikTok at Locked On Utah Hockey, as well as just everywhere you can find your shows.
All right. Well, by the way, I'm gonna go ahead. I know I'm way late to the bandwagon here on TikTok, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to get a TikTok thing going. So with at Tom Talks, we'll see how that goes. I don't know how it's gonna go. Could be really bad, but hey, give it a shot. We'll see what happens.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? What else have I got to do? All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Please subscribe to the show. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to talking to you on our next episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.